Welcome back to another episode of Let's Stay In.
I'm Anna, and this is Mark.
Now, before we get into today's episode, we got to give you that annoying reminder. Make sure you like, subscribe, download, comment. If there's a button, make sure you click it. Somehow, I think that helps us out.
With that being said, let's just jump right in.
Okay, so for people who don't know who you are, Ida, can you give us, what's your 30-second elevator pitch? You're in Traverse City, Michigan. You walk up to somebody at a grocery store. They're like, who are you? What are you doing? You're the only person in Traverse City, Michigan with purple hair. What do you do? What's your story?
Okay. Yeah, my name's Ida. I own a candle company called Evil Queen. It's based in Traverse City, Michigan. We make and sell all of our candles. We have a retail store as well where we do candle making classes. And our candles are known for being funny. Candles with attitude.
There we go.
That's probably less than 30 seconds, but
there it
that's
is.
the gist.
30 seconds can be long to some people. So with that...
30 seconds could be perfect for some people.
Actually, so there's a candle that you created a long time ago that's that you called After Sex. And I don't believe you actually... Did you ever sell it or did you just... Okay. So I only have one and I have it in my bedroom. And every time somebody goes in my bedroom, whatever, for any reason, they always go, oh, so you like always light this candle when like, you're in the mood or that happens. And I'm like, honestly... No, it's literally only in there because I used to have it down here. I didn't want people lighting it because it is my favorite scent. Yeah. And so then I had to move it upstairs. And but it is my favorite candle. And then everybody just assumes that that's a candle I just light,
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
All day.
All that sex is happening. Yeah.
My boyfriend was in your room for some reason. I don't know why. And he sends me a picture of it and he goes, nice.
Yeah. See?
Nice, Mark.
That's the exact reaction. My best friend and his wife stayed at my place while I was gone once. And I come back and the candle had obviously been lit. The lighter was right next to it. And I was like, oh, so did this actually happen or did you just like the scent? And and he's like, no. We just lit the candle. Probably lying to me.
I think they're lying.
It's a great candle. It could get you in the mood.
What are like the fragrance notes of it?
It kind of smells like cologne. It's like bamboo and musk.
Okay. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
It's very nice. It is
very nice.
Yeah.
I can send you another one if you want.
Do you have more?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I've been rationing that shit.
Store.
I can make you custom candles anytime, Mark.
I've literally been rationing that candle like my life ends if that candle runs out. Like it is. I think it has dust in it. I think it
probably does.
Yeah.
It probably does.
That is amazing. But okay, so when you first started the candle company, because I feel like there's a lot of people you hear people all the time. I want to start this. I want to do this. And I think everybody has these like big ideas. But what was like for you, I guess like the first moment where you're like, okay, I'm actually going to do this. And was there like something that had to happen to give you kind of that validation that this is actually going to be successful?
Yeah, so when I started, I had the idea to make funny candles. And at the time, I wasn't even going to do it because I thought someone else had. So I looked on Instagram and Google and everything, and no one was making funny candles. And I was like, well, shit, I guess I got to do it now. And so that was really my catalyst. And I'm just the kind of person who, when I have an idea, I'm going to do it immediately, pretty much. So yeah, that was kind of the thing. And then I was telling my friends and they're like, why aren't there funny candles out there? So I just found like a niche that hadn't really been explored at the time, which is crazy because in 2016, you would have thought there would have been something. And now you go to Target or whatever and they make funny candles all the time, but it just wasn't a thing. And so I think validation from my friends too, being like, wait, this actually is a really good idea. And then the fact that when I started, I had orders on my first day from random people, I was expecting my friends to maybe buy one, but I didn't think anyone would even find me or find Evil Queen. And I had 2 stores place wholesale orders the first day.
Oh, wow. I don't even know if I knew that.
Yeah. They messaged me like, send me your line sheets. I want to place an order. And I was like, I haven't even made a line sheet.
What is that?
I was like, I just thought I'd get one sale and it would be to my mom. So yeah, that was really nice. And then someone sent me a message a few years later and was like, a few months later into starting Evil Queen. And they were like, candles used to be such a boner killer gift, but you made them fun. I was like,
the best
thanks.
compliment.
I was like, thanks.
What a line. What a line.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. I was like, thank you so much.
How did you get the name Evil Queen?
I really wish I had a cool story. I should just make something up.
You really should.
But the actual story is when I was in business school, I had made like a fake company for a business project or whatever. And I don't even remember doing this, but I had drawn on like a journal, Evil Queen, like a bunch of times in different fonts, like made a logo essentially. And so when I had the idea for Evil Queen, I just happened to be like looking through that journal, and I found that page of like everything that just said Evil Queen a bunch of times. And I was like, wait a second, that kind of works.
Yeah.
So it was more like a serendipitous moment,
Love
but
that.
I don't know why I picked Evil Queen, when I was in college. I don't know where that even came from.
Just resonated with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to kind of flex your shit for a moment. So
Okay.
you've had the company now for what, about 7 years?
8 years.
8 years. How many candles would you guess that you've sold in those 8 years?
Oh man. A lot. 500,000, 600,000.
That
Maybe
is
more.
incredible.
We got a plaque from Shopify. You know how YouTube does plaques? We got a plaque from Shopify that last year in September we reached 100,000 orders.
Damn.
Incredible.
Like
Damn.
orders, and most people order like 6 candles at a time. So, I mean, it could be even more than that.
I didn't even people got
phenomenal.
Shopify plaques. I think that's much cooler than the YouTube
It's a little
one.
shopping bag. It's actually very cute.
Oh, damn.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah. So we have sold a lot. And that's not even including wholesale orders. Like that's just retail.
Wow.
And we didn't start the website on Shopify. We started the website on Squarespace. So that's actually that's like a year and a half less.
So,
So,
do
yeah.
you think with wholesale and everything, are we talking like 1 million candles?
I mean, it might be close.
Damn.
That's incredible.
We order at least like 100,000 jars a year.
Wow.
So it might be close by now. I mean, obviously the first few years we weren't doing volume like that, but
What do you think is like your secret sauce to it? Because I think like a lot of times when I talk about the candles and I show them to people, I'm like, here's the thing. They smell great and the labels are funny, but also it's like Ida's fostered this community of people who genuinely like look forward to her candle drops and everything like that. And I was like, and she's been able to build up this like true fan base for a item, which is really difficult to do, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and so why do you think that you were able to create kind of that community? And is that what you think is like the main secret sauce to it? Or like, what do you think is the thing that keeps people coming back and buying more candles?
yeah, I think a lot of it is the community aspect. I think a lot of people like me, not to be like a lot of people like me, but I think they like buying from someone that they know that they can talk to the owner of the company. Like you can DM me and it's going to be me. But I also think people think of my candles like a collector's item because I do a lot of limited launches and then the candle doesn't come back. So if you don't get it, you're never going to get it. And then people get FOMO, and then they're like,
I understand that.
oh no, I need to buy this candle because what if it never comes back? So I think a lot of it, when I first started Evil Queen, that was kind of my goal. Like I want everyone to collect them all, So I think it's part of that. And I think it's part of just the Evil Queen community. Everyone's super friendly. We have a Facebook group where people are like, what candle should I get? I like stuff like this. And other people in the group will answer. So I think it's just people have found friends through Evil Queen. People did Evil Queen meetups like in different cities where, I wasn't there.
What?
Yeah, they'd meet each other in the Facebook group and they'd be like, if you're in DC, come here on this day. If you're an Evil Queen fan, we can all meet each other.
All because of a candle. It's beautiful.
Because of a candle. It's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, us candle freaks,
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
It's a passion.
Yeah. So, but I also, yes, the scents smell good, which is what keeps them coming back for more. But also I think it's just, like unique and
It's fun.
collectible.
How did you come up with the idea? I guess like how did the community even begin to formulate? Because I think when people think of this sort of stuff, it's like, well, yeah, if I had a product that was a great product and I also had this, community of people that all love this product, well, sure, it too would be easy for me to do
Right.
what I want to do. But creating a community is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And so how did you even begin to like start that? And did it form naturally? Was it something that you actually like preemptively thought about, or how did it even begin?
I didn't really consciously think about it, I wouldn't say. I think I've always been very open on social media and posted a lot of videos of me talking, and a lot of companies don't do that. Like, how many founders of companies do you know? And Evil Queen's not big like, other brands, but I think people just like seeing a face to the name kind of thing. And then I think just replying very personally to everyone all the time. And I started the Facebook group to answer people's questions in an easier way, or, people have the same question a lot. So I was like, hopefully you can just see the answer here. But then I think people just kind of found friends and everyone's just friendly. And I think if you're a friendly person, people kind of flock to you. But no, it wasn't really conscious. But even during COVID, remember I used to do lives where I would like drink a glass of wine and people would ask me questions. So I think doing things like that is really important, where I mean, I know a lot of people do lives now, but it wasn't as big of a thing back in like 2020. So I think just making people feel like they can relate to you, and I'm just a person, I'm not, you don't need to like idolize me. Well, and I think they feel connected in that way. So.
And they start rooting for you.
Yeah.
I think if you like show someone, I mean, we've had this conversation so many times about if you show somebody or a massive amount of people what you're working on from day one, they start to feel like they're invested and they see it grow and they want to support you naturally.
Yeah. And
beautiful.
People say that a lot. They're like, I've loved watching you grow over the years. Like, it brings me so much joy. So I think that's part of it too.
Why do you think some people then fail? Because I always wondered that of like, you see people that want to start their own businesses. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they never even get like the first. I guess the biggest question I get from a lot of people is like, well, what's the first step? Like, how do I get started with something like this? Right. Yeah. And so for you, when you first had the original idea, did you immediately like know what you needed to do, or like how did you even begin to figure out what are those next steps? And then for the people who are sitting at home going, I want to start my own business, what do you think is the biggest reason why people fail?
Well, to answer your first question, I think people fail because they don't have enough perseverance. I think that's just it. Times get really tough, a lot. I feel like every day I have a new problem. Every day I'm like screaming my head off in my head. I'm like, this is so hard. And like, I don't know what to do. But my mom has always told me every problem has a solution. And let's say you pick the wrong solution, then you do something else and you just keep trying. And I think a lot of people freak out, like you launch a product and it doesn't sell. And then they're like, oh, I'm done. Or, they get scared, or they're like, I'm going to lose all my money, or I'm going to whatever. And to that I say, okay, so what? Then you get up and you keep trying. You lose all your money that you invested in your business. You go get another job for a little while. And then you try again. Like, you just don't give up. I think that's the biggest thing. But I think when you're starting a business, when I was starting, I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I still don't feel like I know what I'm doing all the time. But I just Googled the shit out of everything. So Google was my best friend. I mean, and I asked people who I knew who had started businesses. I was like, how do I get a business license? Or, I don't know. I didn't know any of it. I was 22. I mean, I didn't know what was going on.
I feel like imposter syndrome kind of ties into the perseverance thing too, because it's not necessarily even a lack of ambition sometimes. Sometimes it's that thing of like, why me?
Yes.
And I know that that's gotten in the way of a lot of people, including myself, from wanting to pursue or succeed because they think about it. They're like, okay, well, there's already, 10,000 of these companies out there that have more seed money, have, a bigger platform, things like that. So why wouldn't they take off instead of me?
Right.
There's room for a lot of people. A lot of people are willing to spend money on a lot of different companies. So you might as well try.
Yeah, exactly. And I always like to say to that, like, there will never be another you. Like, you're the only person that's like you. And so why wouldn't, like, flip the script in your head. Why wouldn't you be able to succeed?
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, why me? Why would anyone buy from me? Like, why wouldn't they?
100%. I think the power of self-talk is so incredibly important because even like us starting this podcast, it's like, okay, so you're another person in LA with a podcast. Like, cool.
Sometimes it feels embarrassing when you tell people.
But it's that whole thing of like, if everybody had the mindset of, well, it's never going to take off for me, why even do it? Then you have 0% chance of being successful with it, right? And so I think about all the time, there's new companies every single day. There's new music artists that come out that pop off out of nowhere. There's new clothing companies that pop off out of nowhere, new drink companies, all these sort of different things. And it's like, if they found a lane, so can you. But again, like you said, it's the perseverance side of it, because it is really easy to get down on yourself when you put something out and it doesn't get the amount of clicks or views that you wanted it to, or maybe you don't get as many sales as you're looking for and things like that. And so then you're like, well, shit, what do I do from here? And that's the part where I always try to like break down everything to the most simple form, right? When I listen to something, why do I listen to it? When I buy something, why do I buy it?
Right.
Why do I, go to certain restaurants over other restaurants? Why do I do this over this? And if I can break down why I do it, then I might be able to think about why somebody else would do it. And those two, if you can figure out that, then again, it's just figuring out your own rationale, figure it out for them, and then you're able to put your products or your things or whatever you're doing in the lane where somebody else might find it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So for you, okay, so you talk about like the different challenges and things like that. What's like the biggest, give me some crazy shit. What's the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome, or like maybe the biggest fuck up that you guys had? Give me something where it was just like something went terribly wrong and how you guys overcame it.
We're actually dealing with a really big challenge right now. We got an order of like 60,000 jars in from our supplier. The jars are the worst jars I've ever seen in my entire life. they're supposed to be smooth and, easily labeled, and they're a certain size, whatever. So the jars have little bumps all over them, so they can't be labeled on either side. The jars also came to us extremely dirty, like filthy, like you wipe it and it's black. So we're like, what is this? Also, I don't have the staff to be able to clean 60,000 jars, and I don't have a dishwasher big enough. Imagine doing like 50 jars at a time. That's insane.
No, I would just quit. I'd be like, this company's going under.
Yeah, I was like, and I was like, what is going on here? And I contacted the company, and they were like, oh, it's just because they're dirty, we'll have a company clean them. So a company comes and takes them back and cleans them. They're still, it doesn't affect the bubbles and the wonkiness of the jar. So I'm like, what can we do here? You have to help me out. I paid you a bunch of money for this order. I'm not just like letting this go down the drain. And so they ended up taking some of them back, but we still have like maybe 3 pallets of jars that are just really bad, honestly. And so what I've been trying to do is think of different ways to still use the jars, because I don't want to have to recycle them or throw them away, because I did pay for them. So what we're doing now is we've been trying all different types of label types. We've been trying, basically we found out through a lot of trial and error, some of the jars have numbers on them, like 1s or 2s. The 1 jars can be labeled. You have to find where the 1 is. You have to look to the left of the seam, and you have to label the candle like right on the seam. And that is the only place where there's no bump. And then the 2s, you can label with like a paper label, like a different thicker label. So it covers the bumps, but then that has to be labeled like on the opposite side where the number 2 is. And you have to heat gun the jar before you label it so that it sticks.
Wow.
And I know that sounds absolutely bonkers to even say that, and that we even figured that out, but it works. And that was like the solution that we found. But what I think about when, we're doing something like this, would Target do something like that? Would they take the time to not waste a bunch of materials, or would they just label it in a way that looks bad and not care?
Yes.
Because right.
That part.
Right.
And then it wouldn't work.
Right. Exactly. And so I, in good conscience, can't send anyone a candle that looks bad, even if maybe no one would ever notice. But I did. And I'm not going to send someone something that's not, in my eyes, perfect. So that's why you should buy from small businesses, because we actually care. We actually care about like giving the best quality product. And yeah, like our candles might be a couple dollars more than Target, but you're getting better quality everything. And someone who actually cares enough to, take the time to label in the one tiny spot on the label where you can get it to look okay.
Wow.
I don't know.
That's wild to think about.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It takes us like 3 times as long to label, because we have to like feel it and find the number. And yeah.
How has being a business owner affected your personal life? And I mean like friendships, as a daughter, as a girlfriend. Like, I feel as if when you're owning your own business, it's so beyond time consuming. I'm kind of getting a taste of that, where it's like those hours don't end. You don't get to just clock out at 5 or, clock in at 9.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how you've balanced that.
It was really, really hard at first. I feel like for the first 2 to 3 years, there were, 6 months out of the year where I just didn't take a day off, like at all. Or, I'd be like, okay, I can just do 4 months working every day, and then I can take a small trip or something, but that was just my mentality, was like, I'm going to work really hard to get to a place where I don't have to do this forever. It's like, there's that quote, like, work, I don't know. You know the quote I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, you work how other people don't want to, so you can live a life that they can't, or whatever.
I know the quote you're looking for, but
it's like, it's like
you got the gist of it.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's gonna bother me too. It's like work. What is
Google it?
It's like
Google it.
Work in a way that you get what you want.
Yeah, it's like you work. Fuck, what is it?
Like work for things that other people aren't willing to like put in the work to get. Something along those lines.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, maybe we'll find it.
I don't even know how you Google that. Yeah.
But anyway, I think it's just, you just have to be willing to put in the work initially. Yeah.
Is it one should do the work others aren't willing to do, and you'll get things others will never have?
Yeah.
That's basically
That's
the gist
basically
of it.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
An iteration of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, but that's the exact premise.
Yeah. So it was really hard for me to find work-life balance, because I want my company to succeed, and it does feel like my baby. I've put so much time and effort and energy into this that I was willing to, not take breaks and give up social events that I, wasn't going to go to because I was making candles or I was doing marketing or accounting or, whatever. But now that I've had Evil Queen for so long and I have the ability to hire a staff and delegate, now I can do things like come to LA for my birthday in the middle of the week, and I'm going to Europe for a month later this summer. So like things like that. So, but all of that hard work was worth it to me. Like, I don't care that I missed, a couple years of my life working away in hopes that now my life is going to be so much better, going forward because of it. But it is hard, especially if you're working out of your house. That was the hardest part for me because it would be 10 p.m. and I'd be like, well, why shouldn't I just go make some candles? But like, also, why would I? Why don't I just wait until the morning?
An addiction.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's just like there's always something that you can do. So it's hard to turn your brain off in that way. It's hard to be like, when do you stop?
Us INFJs.
Right. Like you just never, the to-do list is never ending.
Absolutely.
Our work never really ends. So you just have to find a balance. When I moved Evil Queen into a warehouse and I had to physically drive to go to work, that helped me so much. Because then someone would email at 9 p.m. and I'd be like, well, I'm not driving there right now. So
it's tomorrow's problem.
It's tomorrow's problem.
How did people respond at first when you started not being the friend that could show up to every single event?
I think most of my friends were really, really supportive. I had some friends kind of fall off, but I think that just kind of showed me like who actually cares about me and who was just being like a selfish friend, maybe. So I think in a way it was good for me to weed, narrow down my circle.
It always is.
But it's hard because people don't understand. People who work a job where they're not the owner or they're not fully invested in it, they don't understand that this is your life and this is your livelihood. They're like, why won't you just miss your work thing? It's like, this isn't just a work thing to me. This is my life. And now that I have a staff, it's not only my life, it's the lives of many people. Like if I don't do my job, my employees can't get paid. And that's a lot of pressure, So to me, it's not the same as working for a big corporation or something where they probably don't care about you and you probably don't care about them. Like when you're working for yourself, you care a lot.
Yeah.
So
you need this.
Right. Like needs to work. Yeah.
So how do you deal with like the anxiety of all of that? Because obviously for most people in life in general, there's not that many people that depend on you, right? Especially if you're single, you definitely really don't have anybody that depends on you, and for the most part. And then once you start dating somebody, okay, cool, they may depend on you in certain instances. And then obviously once you have kids, that's obviously where they very much depend on you. But when it comes to like entrepreneurship and things like that, you go from where it's just you working on Evil Queen, doing your thing, to now all of a sudden you have a staff of people who are depending on you to like take care of those problems in terms of like they're probably not going to be the one to figure out the jar situation, so you have to, right?
Right.
So how do you deal with when you get home from work and the anxiety of a situation? Maybe let's say the first time you're dealing with this jar issue and you don't have the solution yet, and so it's probably all encompassing. It's you're thinking about it 24/7, and so how do you deal with that anxiety? And do you have certain things that I guess that you do to like keep yourself calm during like high intense work situations that are incredibly stressful?
Yeah, I think over the years I've just kind of really drilled into my head like I will find a solution. So I think that really calms me. I'm really into positive affirmations. So I'll just keep telling myself like every problem has a solution. And I truly believe that. So I try not to worry about it too much. And then, I try and think of the worst case scenario. Like let's say I did just have to throw away all those jars and buy new ones. Then I would have done that. And I would have been out a lot of money, but I would have figured it out. So I'm really not an anxiety prone person, which I feel fortunate about. So I think over the years, I've just had to deal with so much shit that I'm just like, I'll figure it out. And I go on walks and I hang out with my friends, or I try and distract myself from work as much as possible. I think that's just the best thing. Like the more I ruminate on it, the worse I'm going to feel. So I might as well just try not to think about it until I know I'm going to figure something out, or I'll work on it until I have a solution. I'll keep messing with those jars until I figure it out.
You said you're not an anxiety prone person.
Not really.
That is such a fascinating like species to me. Like I feel like that you don't really exist.
Yeah.
What is your head like? Is it's just positive all the time? Like it's just like quiet?
I just feel calm. Yeah. I just feel
at
at peace. I'm not really an overthinker. I don't really Like I go to bed at night and my brain just is completely shut off and I'm just like out.
And you just go to sleep.
Yeah.
Whoa, there's so many people just like punching their dashboards in their car right now.
Yeah,
Have you always been that way?
Pretty much.
Gosh,
when I was younger, I think I was a little more like I really wanted to do well in school and things like that. But I think I've gotten over a lot of that. I just don't really care.
Whenever people say that like happiness is like the greatest currency, you know,
Yeah.
it's like not wealth, not whatever. It's like to me just being calm.
Yes.
Because like you can have all of that. I'm an incredibly happy person, doing well, but like it's that calmness, just being content and at peace. I feel like that is like the ultimate wealth.
Yeah. And then that's how I know too, if I'm around someone or if I'm with someone, like let's say a boyfriend or something, and they give me anxiety, I'm like, something's very wrong because I don't usually feel like this.
You have a good baseline.
So I'm like, or if there's a friend and I'm like feeling really anxious about some sort of friendship situation, I'm like, something's wrong and maybe you're not the person that I should be friends with because I don't usually feel like this and I don't want to feel like this. So
then you're really in tune with yourself.
Yeah.
Do you have a strong intuition?
Yes. I feel very, very strongly about my intuition and it's always right.
It is always right.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So it's hard.
I like what you said though about the always finding a solution, because I think about in life in general, like how many problems we've all faced in life, and it's like we've all faced a trillion problems and you've always found a solution. And so, yes, sometimes the solution sucks. If you're driving your car and all of a sudden the dashboard starts lighting up and you realize you got to go take your car in, and then they're like, hey, by the way, blah, 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 blah is wrong with your car. You got to pay $1,100. Like, you figured it out before, you'll figure it out now. Right. And I think there's so many times in life where people feel this like overwhelming anxiety of like, holy shit, I've got this situation where I don't exactly know how I'm going to solve this. But again, it's one of those things where I strongly believe in like positive affirmations and just basically saying to yourself, like, and it sounds kind of, I don't know, it might sound like toxic male culture to say this, but I'll be like, I'm fucking Marc Colcer. You can figure this the fuck out. Like, you've done this before. You figured it the fuck out. Like, you're going to figure this situation out. It's no different than anything else that you've had to deal with before. You're going to figure this out. The solution may not be dead obvious. It may not be fun. The solution may absolutely suck. But like sometimes that's what you have to do, and that's life. And like, and I try to remind myself of that. And again, every time you always find that solution. It's just sometimes the solution is you got to do something you don't want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really hard for people too, because you start thinking about, the problem so much, and then your anxiety gets ramped up and you're like, I'm never going to figure this out, or I'm going to be out so much money, or I'm going to lose this person who I never thought I was going to lose. But you'll get through it, like no matter what the solution is, there is one, and you'll figure it out. So it's just hard to not focus on the bad sometimes. You really have to try and actively work on flipping it. And I don't mean like toxic positivity and like everything's great all the time. It's just you can do hard things and you can figure things out. And you just have to believe, like you said, you have to believe in yourself. Like we all have problems every day, right? Like something even minor probably goes wrong every single day. And you figured that out a million times.
Yeah. But it's a small part of it. I keep trying to put it like framing it of like, I was really pissed on the way here. Rock flew up, broke my windshield. It's going to be very expensive. Yeah. But I'm driving a car. That's my dream car on the way to a thing that I love to do. It's 10 seconds of inconvenience. The weight of it, just isn't that significant.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is hard to like in the moment try and flip the script in your brain, right? It's not easy to just be like, to let things go sometimes.
Yeah. And sometimes you got to just like, sometimes you need to just call up a friend and bitch for a moment.
100%.
You have to have a pity party.
You do.
Get that shit off your chest. And then, allow yourself, I always say, like, anytime I have like a terribly bad day, I'm like, okay, you're going to give yourself whatever you need, 30 minutes, an hour to feel bad for yourself. Then focus on a solution, because feeling bad for yourself is not going to fix the problem. Sometimes we need to do that to get it, off our chest and everything like that. But once we get past that, then I'm like, okay, now we got to actually focus on finding this solution. And so, you have the ability to feel bad for yourself. Do that. Get the shit off your chest, and then move forward onto that next phase. Because again, that's like life in general. I remember when COVID hit, I Googled, how long does a pandemic take, to end, right?
Me
and
too.
It was like 3 years normally. And I was like, fuck. And I was like, okay, so we're probably going to be dealing with this for a minute, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, I can either feel bad about it or I can deal with it. And yes, it sucks. And it is what it is. But again, I think about like, I'm 31. I don't necessarily remember exactly what like the 2008 housing crisis was like, but I'm like, okay, our parents figured that out, right? And there were a lot of people's lives whose lives were drastically changed in 2008, but they figured that out. Then you had the tech bubble burst before that. People figured that out. You had all different things that happened in the 80s and 70s and things like that, and families figured that out. And so again, every generation has these like different problems that come our way. Right now, for our generation, it's like we have kind of like the loneliness epidemic going of a lot of people are struggling to meet friends and things like that because a lot of people are working from home. We obviously had COVID. Now we're dealing with rising home costs and inflation and things like that. But again, every generation has had problems and every generation has figured it out. We will figure it out too. But if you're sitting there dwelling on like, well, we're fucked, it's like, that's not the solution. So you have to allow yourself that pity party for a moment and then get on your ass and figure it out.
Yeah, and do something. Try anything. And if that doesn't work, then you try something else.
100%.
That's another perseverance thing. You just have to keep trying.
Well, a lot of like, not to get all like therapeutic, but freeze response is very common.
Yeah.
You know, when you are traumatized or you are really stressed. And I think that that's like something I'm looking around and seeing a lot. Hence why a lot of people are depressed. People just don't know how to then move. They don't know how to make that move. And it seems like when you verbalize that of like, feel bad for yourself and move on. That's not what I'm not, I know you're not saying that, but we hear that and it's like, I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know how to make that next step because everything in your body is sending you signals to just like do what it's taking to survive.
Yes.
And not to flourish or thrive. And I feel like a lot of society isn't even developed or built or it doesn't foster an environment where you can.
Yeah.
You know, hence the rising of hence the rising of the cost of housing and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not easy, you know, and there are plenty of days where bad things happen and I'm like, I don't want to do shit. I'm just going to, you know, lay here in my bed and feel sad. But it really takes a lot of effort to be able to get up. I'm not saying any of that's easy, you know.
Yeah.
You really have to make a conscious effort to be like, okay, I'm going to get out of bed and at least do something, try something to feel better and move forward. So.
Whenever I feel really down and I feel frozen, I always tell myself to fight for myself, which is like such a dramatic thing. I was feeling really horrible. I was really sick like a few weeks ago and I started crying because I was in so much pain. And it was like such a weird thing because like I don't cry in general very often. So for me to cry technically because of response felt so childlike. And I didn't really want to miss something that was happening the next day. And the next day I wanted to be present. And I just told myself, like, fight for yourself. Give yourself a moment to just feel this way. And then you're going to get out of bed and you're going to enjoy because that enjoyment and that happiness is going to completely erase all the things you're feeling right now. And so no matter what it is, I always just tell myself to fight for my life.
Yeah.
Even if it's as silly as like being able to get to a lunch or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
I think about too I was literally having this conversation with somebody the other day and I was like, the people who don't have a lot of problems in life, right? I almost feel empathy for those people because I'm like, then when the smallest inconvenience comes your way, you freak out because you're not used to dealing with shit. So there's certain moments like back in August of 2023, I had a week or two where it just felt like everything was going the opposite way that I wanted it to go.
You
right?
kind of had a historically horrific week. It was like one of those where you're like, are you lying at this
point?
Yeah. Like, this is really bad.
Yeah, it got to a point where I started laughing because I was like, it is truly, if something can go wrong, it's going wrong this week, right?
Yeah.
And then I reminded myself, like, okay, now next month it has to be easier, right? Because like it can't, I mean, truly at that point it was like it's hard to get worse without me just dying. It was like you know,
one step away.
Yeah, it's like outside of that I think I'm good, right? But I told myself, it's like, dude, now when I think about like a tough month that I've had recently or whatever, I'm like, okay, well that was nothing compared to August, you know? So I'm like, if I can deal with August, I can deal with this, right? And so I think in general I almost appreciate my problems because if I have problems and I find a way to get past those problems and survive on those problems and things like that, then I'm like, now I'm so much more prepared to take on the next problem, right? And that's life. Like life is literally a series of like these good moments kicked in the face. And you just like, and it just happens. And so when you have that moment where you just get kicked in the face or a day where you're like, you know what? I'm having a great day, boom, had this gigantic problem with the candles, right? It's like when you have those moments, you realize, okay, at any one point in time, this shit can happen. We can have a problem that comes my way that I don't necessarily know how I'm going to solve it. But again, because of your previous experience of dealing with problems, handling it, coming to the solution and moving forward, you know that there's nothing that you can't handle. And I think there's a blessing in knowing, hey, all the shit that I've dealt with in the past, I've gotten past it. I will get past this. I just need to like remind myself. Again, like remind yourself who the fuck you are. You've done it. You will do it again, and you will have more problems in the future. And every one of them you will handle. You got this shit. It's a mindset thing.
And I feel like it helps too, because when you do have problems, then when things are going really well, you appreciate it more, right? Like you would never feel if you never had a problem. I feel like everything would just feel kind of like meh to you.
Absolutely.
But when you have challenges and difficulties, and then you overcome it, and then something really good happens, you're even more elated because you're like, this could have been way worse, and I'm cruising now.
100%.
I feel like, so I'm not a cold plunger, but I personally am obsessed with this like movement, because it all comes down to a bunch of people wanting to become more resilient. Because ultimately, I mean, that's what I've taken from it whenever I like see an interview or Wim Hof and things like that. It's to basically adjust yourself to discomfort so that you are able to breathe through discomfort in your life more easily. And I think that that's such a beautiful thing that people are implementing on a daily basis, of just being so completely uncomfortable so that they can practice that resiliency, day-to-day life.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Cold plunges are challenging.
Horrific.
Yeah.
Why? But I guess that's why.
That's why.
Yeah. There's something special about getting to that point of just, dealing with the discomfort, realizing that you're going to survive and moving past it. But so, okay, my question for you on this is, for yourself, there's always a lot of people that are listening to stuff like this, and they're trying to figure out, okay, I want to start my own business. I don't even know where to begin. Again, you talked about, for you, it was a lot of just Googling shit, figuring it out. But knowing now what everything that you've gone through in the last 8 years, going from starting a candle company in your kitchen to selling over, let's just say, close to 1 million candles, what is one thing that you know now that you wish you knew back then that would have made your experience a little bit easier?
Well, I have a funny answer and I have a real answer. I wouldn't have picked to do something breakable. That's my funny answer. I would have chosen a different product. But no, for real, I think just kind of what we were just talking about. I think just like my mom used to always tell me, you can't ever do anything so wrong that it can't be fixed. And I think really just believing that, because I used to be so afraid of, how am I going to make everyone happy? How am I going to get everyone to like my candles? You can't. Not everyone's going to, and that's okay. So I think if I could tell myself one thing, it would be to like be as confident as possible. Because if you're confident and you like your products and you believe in your products, then other people will too. But if you're like, oh, I don't know, here's my candle, I hope you like it, then other people are going to be like, oh, well, does she even like what she's selling? And if you're like, this is the best candle I've ever made, it's my absolute favorite, then someone else is going to be like, oh, I want that. So I think just having more confidence when I was young, and granted I was pretty young, and so now I know that, even if you got to fake it till you make it, just believe in yourself and have confidence. And I think that goes such a long way. I think people underestimate, the power of like mental thinking and being confident in yourself.
How have you gotten good with like pivoting? Because I think about when it comes to a lot of different businesses, how businesses have had to market, how businesses have had to operate has drastically changed over the last, honestly, you take any period of life, it changes over time, right? There were businesses that were operating brick and mortar, and then all of a sudden the internet comes and they got to deal with e-commerce. They got to deal with all of that kind of stuff. We've had restaurants that have operated, for as long as ever. And now all of a sudden we got all these delivery apps and all these things that they have to think about, right? So for your business, I guess, what is one thing that like you've had to pivot on hard from like when you originally started till now, I guess, and maybe the way that like the world has changed, or just maybe in a way of like how spending habits have changed, things like that? What is a way that you've pivoted, and how do you, I guess, you think about just like pivoting in general?
I think the biggest thing that you constantly have to pivot on in business is marketing, because Instagram and social media is such a big form of marketing now, but 2016 Instagram is a completely different ballgame than now. And if I was continuing to try and do what I did in 2016, it just wouldn't work. So that's a really big one. Just marketing in general is probably the biggest pivot, but also staying relevant can be hard sometimes. Like, you can't be stuck in your old ways. If products aren't selling, if, there's an old product that I love and it hasn't sold in a while, like, get rid of it. Like, do something trendy, do something new, do something exciting. So I think that's a really big part too, is that people don't consider, like, you probably shouldn't just have one standard line that you never change. Like, you have to be constantly coming up with new things, especially in today's, day and age. How many candle companies do you think there are in the world? 1 million?
Yeah. Easily, if
right.
not more, probably.
Right. So, like, how do you stand out? And you can't just remain stale. And I think that's a lot of it too, is like, what kind of unique products can I do? What can I do that someone else might not be doing? And you just can't get stuck in your ways. You can't be afraid of change, and you can't be afraid of growing, and that in turn will grow your business too. But I think pivoting is so important. If something's not working, you just can't be afraid. It's so much easier said than done, because you're like attached to your products or your business or the outcome. But if you want your business to exist, you're going to have to change, and grow.
I was just watching World War Z. Have you seen it?
No.
I don't even know what that's a movie.
World War Z with Brad Pitt.
I've heard of it.
Not a big Brad Pitt guy.
Me neither. I am also not a Brad Pitt guy, but I'm a huge zombie gal. Like, that is my favorite, favorite category, whatever genre of movie is apocalypse, zombies. Anyways, so there's a moment where Brad Pitt is telling a group of people that needs to evacuate, movement means survival. Like, if you don't get out, like, the people that are constantly moving place to place are the ones that are going to be able to survive, and basically staying put means death. And like, I'm in the process right now of creating a product, starting my own business for the first time, and everything, like, how it is, whenever you start a business, everything gets tied back to it. So as Brad Pitt is like telling this like sweet group of immigrants, you need to move or you're going to die, I was like, God, that's like such a representation of, going into something, a fresh new idea, and not being afraid to be wrong.
Yes.
And I was talking to this woman who is the head of the lab that I'm working with ultimately today. And she was telling me that the biggest mistake that she sees is that people get so prideful. They get stuck on an idea. They love their baby that they're creating. They don't like being told that it's not good. They take it personally, and then they freeze. And the best thing you can do is just accept that you're not going to be an expert at everything. You don't want to be. That'd be too time consuming. And so listen to the people that know what they're doing and adjust accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's I love that, like, movement.
Movement means survival.
Exactly.
In every way of life.
Yeah, it's so true. If you can't just remain stuck. There are very few businesses that can like do the same thing and never, like, in and out maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. But like,
how many businesses can you think of that have never like if Nike only sold one type of shoe, nothing else, people would get bored. Eventually, something new is coming that people want.
Stagnant water is the most deadly.
Yeah.
If you think about it,
exactly.
you always need to keep flowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, again, when it comes to all of this sort of stuff, like, business in general, or like having an idea, life in general, we just pivot all the time, right? Like,
without even thinking about it.
Right. And so there's a quote that I live by that I think is like, I don't know, I think about it often. It's that day by day, not much changes. You look back, everything has changed, right?
Yep.
And so even you and I haven't seen each other in what, like probably a year?
Yeah.
And it's like day by day, it doesn't seem like a ton changes, but then you start catching up and you're like, oh, hey, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And you're like, holy shit, so much has happened over the last year. And so again, we're constantly just pivoting and adjusting and everything. And so that's the way of life. It's always going to be that way. And I think when you are constantly asking yourself the question of like, okay, hey, am I, is something that I was doing previously still working? And that can mean for business, that could mean for relationships, that could mean for friendships, things like that. And then if it's no longer working, if it's no longer serving you, that's when you realize you need to pivot, right? And pivoting is hard. And pivoting, again, whether it's in business, whether it's in personal life, switching from doing something that you've always done to no longer doing it is incredibly difficult. But that's also part of it.
Yeah.
So for you, okay, one thing I know that we won't get into too many, personal things, but business and pleasure have crossed over at times, right?
Yes.
And so is that something that you would recommend? Because I feel like I feel like there's a lot of people that start businesses with somebody that they're dating. Actually, one of the things that we talked about when we started this podcast is Anna and I have been platonic friends for seven years, however long it's been. And so the nice part about it is like we don't ever have to worry about like, it's like a couple that's dating and they have a podcast. Oh, what happens if like then that messes with your relationship, blah, blah, blah. We don't have to worry about that. We've been friends forever. And so it's just friends sitting on a couch. It's easy then to not have to think about how that's going to like, how that could change moving forward. We know it won't change. We've been friends. We're going to stay friends.
Yeah.
But when it comes to dating somebody and working with them, that can cause a lot of different, complexities. So is that something that you would recommend in hindsight, or, do you think it's important now to kind of keep things separate, or how do you feel about all of that?
I don't personally think it's a good idea to mix like business and pleasure. I would probably never again, like, let someone I was dating work at my company, but never say never. I know there's a bunch of successful businesses where the wife started the business and the husband joined later on, but I think it's also different in my circumstance because I started Evil Queen alone, and the guy I was dating at the time of starting Evil Queen was never really interested in being a part of it, which was fine with me. I didn't want him to or need him to. And then I started dating someone else who like wanted to be very involved, and I allowed them to be, but then I just feel like it strained our relationship because it's sometimes hard to, like, how do you speak to your partner who's maybe not, hasn't done some of their work or something? And you have to, whereas at work, I can just be like, hey, what's up with this? Why didn't you get this done? But it's different talking to, your boyfriend. It's like, it's a weird situation. So I don't think I would do it again. I like Evil Queen as my own thing. And like, I don't really like anyone telling me what to do with Evil Queen, especially like, it's been fine for 8 years. I don't need you telling me some idea and, then getting mad at me that I'm not going to implement it when you're not the one who started, you joined later on. And not to say I don't ever take people's ideas, but I just, I feel like in a relationship, it can be tricky. I also think it depends on the type of person. If they're super supportive and, would do anything to make it work and make you happy, like maybe that can work out. But I don't know. I don't think I would ever do it again, personally.
That's very fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's something where it just adds a underlying level of complexity that a relationship just doesn't need.
Totally.
And that's what I think about often because, I don't know, I think about the couples that have a business together. Maybe they start one together or something, some other format. But like the issue is like you get off work and yet, so you're supposed to flip a switch? Are you supposed to flip a switch from coworkers to lovers? And like, that's such a weird mental thing to think about. And is that even possible? Is it like truly even, then are all of your conversations constantly about work? I feel like that can affect your relationship.
That happened to me all the time. It's like, we would just always be talking about work. And then, then they'd get mad and be like, why are we always talking about work? I'm like, well, I don't know, because that's what, that's what we're both doing. If you had a different job, we could also talk about your work, but it's all one and the same now. I also do think it's different though if you start something at the same time. Like if you're a couple and you start something together, I feel like that has a greater chance of working out because you're both equally invested and you like started it together. I think it's different when someone joins. Like let's say you started your podcast and then you start dating someone a year later and they want to join. Like that would be way more difficult.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like it would just be different.
I could see the resentment building up with that. I could also see a lot of insecurity.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes I would like, I want the person that I'm dating to have other things that they're doing because sometimes you need, like work, it oftentimes is stressful. And sometimes you just need to bitch about it. But when sometimes you're bitching, not even for the sake of them giving you an opinion or advice or whatever, but you're just bitching for the sake of like getting it off your chest. Mm-hmm. But then when your like stress and everything is also similar to their stress, like you have the same problems because you're working on the same things, then I'm like, are we both just constantly bitching about the same shit? And I feel like that can also become kind of like a toxic environment to be in. So I don't know. When I think about like starting your own thing, I'm like, sometimes it's nice to just keep things separate, have each of your things, and then maybe that way sometimes when you are talking about something going on with work, maybe they're able to approach it with a fresh mindset and say, hey, have you guys thought about this? Okay, and they could always preface it with, hey, I'm not as informed as you, I'm not involved in the day-to-day, but have you thought about this? And who knows, maybe that fresh idea kind of changes the way that you think about things
because they're not so close. You know, sometimes it's hard when you're talking with someone who's also so invested, whereas you talk to someone, like you said, a fresh mindset. maybe they're seeing things in a completely different light that you didn't even think of because you're so like, magnifying glass looking at it.
100%. So now currently in this current moment, in this time of the taping of this, you're single. And so when you're thinking about like dating, does it give you, I don't know, are you nervous to kind of like flex how successful you are? Because that is something that I feel like there's kind of a, we still have a lot of toxic male culture in the society that doesn't sometimes take women as seriously as they should when it comes to women's success and things that they're doing and the things that they're working on and all of that. So when you're talking to a guy, how quickly do you bring up like the success of Evil Queen and let them know, hey, not only do I have a candle company, but it's damn successful, and like be able to confidently, kind of flex your shit? Or are you more, I guess not as upfront, or kind of what's your strategy with all of that?
It's hard because I haven't really like been on a date in so long because I was in a relationship for so long. But back in LA when I was dating, it was rough. The first question's always, so what do you do? And I'd say, oh, I own a candle company. And most of the time the guy would say, oh, like a little Etsy store.
Cute.
And I was like, no, like I have a warehouse. I have like 10 employees. And then they would be like, oh, that's dope. And I was like, but when you thought it was a little Etsy store, it wasn't dope. It started like that. And so I always just hated that. Like, why is it like a double-edged sword? You only like it now that you think it's cool, now that you think it's successful. So it's hard. I don't really know. I think I just have to find a guy who's also doing their own thing and is also successful and won't feel intimidated, because like I obviously love Evil Queen, but I don't want it to be my entire life. I want to have a life outside of my work, and we can all just do that and have fun. And, it doesn't have to be about who's more successful than each other or whatever. So, but yeah, I think these days I would probably, I don't know, it's hard. I want to say I would tone it down, but I also don't want to do that.
Yeah.
She's
like
so
I want,
proud of it.
Yeah, like if you don't like it and if you feel jealous or insecure right away, then I just know you're not the one for me.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think that's one of those things where, like, I try to, because I have your candles all over my apartment, and I think I've always had them all over my apartment. Because
you always talk about them too. From the moment I've met you, he has been so proud of his one friend that has a candle company.
That's so cute.
Well,
literally,
it's because I saw it from literally day one. Like when I first moved to LA, Ida would text our friend group chat and would be like, who's free tonight? Need people to help me pour candles. And it was like, and we're in her kitchen and she's pouring candles. It looks like a flipping meth lab. And that's what she's doing. And so to then see it go from like that to now, there's been times, there was somebody who came over my apartment a few weeks ago and they were like, oh, I know these candles. And I was like, that's so sick. Like, let's go. And it was like, that's so awesome. My mom will text me. Like, my mom's in the Facebook group, she's talking about, oh, did you see this candle that just dropped, blah, blah, blah. And she's got a trillion of them. And so again, it's like, I think about all of that and I'm obviously very proud to see how successful you've been, the fact that you've been able to literally, you employ people. That is so cool to me. Like that's so awesome. Like literally those people pay their bills because of you. Like that's a flex and a half. Yeah. But again, and I think just going back to what you said before of when somebody is working at like the beginning stages of things, they're running an Etsy shop, whatever, when it comes to like a dating perspective or whatever, you need to be with somebody who supports what you're doing and supports that dream of where you want to take it to. Because again, as we've stated already in this podcast, doing what you're doing is difficult. And so having anybody that's like swimming against your current is never going to do anything to serve you. And so even when it comes to the podcast, like if I'm dating a girl, I want her to want to listen to the podcast. Yeah. I'm not saying that you got to listen to every episode, but I would like you to be like, oh, who did you have on today? How did it go? What did you guys chat about? Oh, that one sounds really interesting. I'm for sure listening to that one. I'm not expecting you to listen to all of them, but I want you to genuinely care about something that means so much to me.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't mean it has to be your cup of tea. It might be that you listen to a few of these and you're like, not really my vibe, but every once in a while, just tune in, because it's the same thing with life in general. You want people around you that support you because life is hard. And when you feel that support, it just makes everything that you're doing that much easier.
It does. Yeah.
I actually have a scenario that I need, or circumstance that I need advice on.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go.
So I just started a company and it's beginning stages. I need to be involved. I have never been so busy in my entire life. I've always been like influencer friend, the girl that like you can text on a Tuesday at 3 p.m. I am free. Like I am always there. I am always available. Now that is not the case. And it's like I am on my phone on WhatsApp until like 10, 11 p.m. and I go to bed and it starts all day, you know, the next day. And long story short, I was invited to a bachelorette, high school best friend, love her, was incredibly excited to go to this. Tickets bought, Airbnb paid for, bought gifts for all the girls. I get a call 2 days before today saying, you have an opportunity to meet an investor on Friday. It's the one day you can meet him. They're flying in. This person's very busy. This person could change your life, your business. You need to be there. I talked to my partners about it. My partners are like, you need to be there. This could be a game changer for us. And I keep thinking about the fact that I'm supposed to be flying to a bachelorette the day before. And it's not because I want to go have fun, but I don't want to bail on my best friend. And I've always been the friend that if I can show that if I can be there, if I can show you that I love you and that I support you, I will do it.
Yeah.
And now I don't have that like luxury of time to always be able to show my friends with like my actual presence. And I'm at that point where I need to potentially bail, or I go and I miss out on this huge opportunity. And I'm wondering, one, what you would do, and two, how do I make it right? How do I make my, you know, appreciation and love known if I'm not able to make it?
Yeah. I mean, I, for one, would bail 100% because I think you're in early stages of your business. This is a really important opportunity. Even if nothing comes out of this opportunity, like these are the things you have to say yes to. As an entrepreneur, I always say, like, say yes to everything. Yeah. You never know who you could meet, who you could run into. Like, Mark, you're a great person. I'm like, anytime Mark asks me to do something, I say yes, because I never know who I'm going to meet that might change my life, you know? So I absolutely think you have to go. Mm-hmm. I think any real friend will understand.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think you should have to worry about doing some, if this is, you know, someone who's really your best friend and loves you, they should be the ones being like, you have to go to this. Okay. It's totally okay that you aren't coming to, and of course they're probably going to be sad, but you're sad too. You know, you're not like bailing for fun, you know, or just because you don't want to go.
Yeah.
And I think your friends will understand that. And, you know, if you want to send them a little gift or something, or buy them drinks at a bar or something, I don't know, whatever. Yeah. Like you could do something like that. But I really think if they're your true friend, they'll understand and they'll be supportive of you and excited for you. I would hope that they would be like, this is a huge opportunity for you. You absolutely have to take this. And like, you know, at least that's what I would do if it was my friend. So.
Yeah. I've never had anything I'm proud of. You know,
right.
I've never had something that I'm like, this is actually a recipe of something that I love.
Yeah.
I feel like everything else, it was just like given to me because of, you know, an easy circumstance or something, like modeling. Because I've always been just an influencer or a model. You show up, they like your look and they cast you as nothing.
Right.
There's no substance to it. This is something that I, you know, went to school for. I have 2 degrees in. It was something that my parents were always hoping I would pursue. I got an opportunity to do it. And I feel like I wake up and I feel like smart for the first time, or I feel like qualified, or I feel important. I feel like people are relying on me, and it feels so good. And I don't want that to end. And this is like the thing that I think has longevity. Looks, influencer stuff, it's always going to fade. And I don't want that to be my identity anyways. And so this is something I want to pour my heart into. And it's just really hard when my identity has always been tied into being like the support friend or being the advice friend, and not being able to necessarily pick up the phone or answer all the texts. It's been very hard for me to like relinquish the thing that I liked the most about myself for this thing that I want to see what the potential could be.
Yeah. I just think I love what you said about how you feel like, you know, super proud of this and you feel smart and important, all these things, because you are. And I think anything that makes you feel that way is so worth pursuing. So you absolutely like should do anything in your power to keep feeling that way. And like I said earlier, if you lose friends along the way, like they're not meant to be your friends if they're not fully supporting you and something that makes you feel good and feel happy. And, you know, they should be your number one fans.
That's true. No, I agree with that.
Yeah. And I think too, when it comes to like wanting something to succeed, you have to take risks all the time, and you have to just say yes to shit. And like one of the greatest examples of that is actually how you and I met. Was that so super, super long story short, but there was a period of time where I was managing music artists. And long story short, we were doing a show in Michigan, and we meet this music producer of a larger music artist. And he says to us, I would love for you guys to come out to Texas the following week. I actually miss my, literally the last time I could see my grandfather because of it, because I knew it was an opportunity and I didn't know it was going to be the last time I was going to be able to see my grandfather, but I knew my grandpa wasn't doing ultra well. And I said to myself, and people can disagree with this, agree with this, whatever, but I knew that my grandpa would want me to take this chance, that this was a guy, we met this big name music producer. He wants us to fly to Texas. I know I should take this risk. And so I said to myself, okay, I can't fly to Florida that weekend to see my grandpa. I'll fly the following weekend to see my grandpa. Well, my grandpa passed during that time period. And there was part of me that beat myself up over that. But at the same time, and I know that today, my grandpa's looking down on me, proud of me of everything that happened since that point, because we flew out to Texas. We met this music producer. We hung out with him. We spent time with him. He then signs a record deal in L.A. So then he says to us, you guys should come out to L.A. So this is where Ida comes into the story. So he says to us, I've got this penthouse suite in downtown L.A. You guys are welcome to stay with me for a 3-day period. We didn't want to fly to L.A. for 3 days because that's a short trip to L.A. flying all the way across the nation. So we were like, you know what? We want to come for a week. So we need somewhere to stay for 4 days. This is back in
2014, I think.
Something like that. Yeah, long time ago. And so Ida was friends with my cousin back in high school, and I didn't really know Ida. We knew of each other, but we hadn't met. And so, long story short, I was like, that I think her name is Ida. I was like, Ida lives in L.A. I'm gonna hit her up. Maybe she's got a big enough
literally
apartment.
On Facebook Messenger.
Yeah. So I hit her up.
Stay at your house?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
So I hit her up and I was like, "Can I call you?" And she's like, "Sure."
Oh, you were doing that back then too?
Yeah. Well,
I hate phone calls. I was
he always wants to get on the phone.
I'm like,
listen,
dude.
There was no way I was gonna text her, "Hey, nice to meet you. Can I stay at your apartment?"
But it's Mark. Can I get a call, Colcer?
Yeah.
Over here. Can I get a call with you?
True. So I get on the phone with her and I'm like, hey, okay, is there any way that we can stay with you for 4 days? It's me and this music artist, Alexa, that I'm working with. I promise we're going to be the easiest people in the world to stay with you, blah, blah, blah. She's like, Mark, I have a really, really tiny apartment. I was like, it's fine. She's like, no,
She's
listen.
like, I'm saying no.
No, she's like, I straight up don't have a kitchen. I use a hot pad or whatever. And I was like,
my apartment was smaller than this living room.
Oh, for sure. She was like, also, I don't have AC. And I was like,
it was 110.
Yeah, she was like, it's going to be insanely hot that week. I was like, does not matter. And she's like, okay, fuck it, fine, come. And I was like, awesome. So we stay with her for 4 days. And so we get out there. It is so unbelievably hot in LA. And I think we literally said to so Alexa was sleeping in the bed with Ida. They meet. They're like, okay, hey, nice to meet you. Yeah. She's like, by the way, it's Ida, not Ida. And I was like, oh, fuck, my bad. And then Alexa and her are sleeping in the bed. I don't even know what I was sleeping on. Was
an air mattress? I think
an air mattress fit in there?
Like a twin.
Yeah. It was
right up against the bed.
Yeah, and then we were like, okay, listen, everybody, keep your eyes pointed up because we may have to sleep in very little clothing because it is so unbelievably hot.
We were pretty much just in our underwear.
Yeah. You had to be.
I didn't
so
even
hot.
have a fan.
It was so hot. I mean, it was literally like a sweat bucket in there, and I still have nightmares over the situation. But we stayed with Ida for 4 days. It was the beginning of our trip. And then we start staying with this music producer, and I'm like, I feel like the two of them would get along really well. So I said to Ida, I was like, you know what? When you're done with school, because she was going to FITM at the time, I was like, you should come over. You should meet him. So she does that. You guys ended up dating for what?
Over 4 years.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Mark's a matchmaker.
He really is. You never know you're going to meet through Mark.
I know.
So when they moved in together, they moved into an apartment. Then they moved into, I think, a second apartment. Second apartment is where she started Evil Queen. So literally, again, everything from that one random ass concert back in Mount Pleasant, Michigan to who knows what happens? Who knows if I come out to LA? Who knows if you start Evil Queen? All these different things.
I probably wouldn't have started Evil Queen. It's the
knows?
butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Honestly,
That's
I probably
the most
wouldn't
beautiful
have.
thing ever. That's incredible.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. That's how we
love
met.
That story.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about it often because I'm like, that's the craziest set of circumstances where it was like.
And why did I say yes? Not to be mean,
Truly,
but
yeah.
why
did
I?
you say, you tried to say no. I mean, no. If my place is small, I have no AC.
I think Mark thought I was exaggerating When I said my place was small, you know, he was like, "Oh, you're fine." I was like, "No, it's a 200 square foot studio where you're sitting on the toilet and you can wash your hands at the same time." That the bathroom was
convenient.
Convenient. Yeah. But like it was small.
Yeah, it was.
And
putting
look
it lightly.
how far you've come.
Look how far I've come.
Yeah, no, it is truly, and that's why I think with life in general, you always have to take chances and take risks because you never know what could lead to anything. And if you think about the greatest accomplishments you've ever had in life, usually it was one really small random occurrence where you said yes that led to this really cool moment happening for you. And so I think for everybody in general, like you have to leave enough space in life for things to happen. And so sometimes that means saying yes to more things. And that might mean that you take a meeting that doesn't go anywhere. In the meeting afterwards, you're like, that was a complete waste of my time. But that's what you have to do. You have to be willing to waste your time. You have to be willing for things to not go your way because all it takes is one thing going your way that can literally change the course of the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's my goal for the year is to say yes to everything. Not everything, but
can
to
I have
say
$1 million?
Yes. Yes. If I had it, I would give it to you.
Okay, fair. Let's start with something reasonable. $1,000. Awesome. I know you got that.
Sure.
But
it's so true. You know, you just never know. And I feel like the best years of my life have been the times when I've said yes to things that maybe normally I wouldn't have said yes to, and just going out of your comfort zone and saying yes to something like that. Like you said, our lives could be completely different had, you know, I not said yes to you.
Yeah.
Not checked your Facebook messages.
I know.
Crazy shit. Crazy shit. Is that where we wrap this up?
That was a great conversation.
Yeah, that was a banger of an episode, guys. Ida, thank you for coming on. And where can people find your candles?
ShopEvilQueen.com, @EvilQueen on Instagram.
Give us like your top 3 cents. What do we got? When people go on there?
Like my personal favorite or just best sellers? Or both?
Give your personal 3 favorites.
I really like Books Are Greater Than People, Stolen Hoodie, and Old Soul. Those are probably my top 3.
Everybody go buy Evil Queen candles and shop small business, okay? So,
absolutely.
And you know what? And you might be getting a jar that had a lot of problems that you guys had to work your ass off to fix.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so appreciate
the label
that
to
jar.
the left of the one.
Yeah, exactly.
There it is. Well,
thank you guys so much.
No problem.
Thank you. Love you.
See you guys.
Bye.